Two stories dominated the American news cycle this past week and refused to stay out of the conversation no matter how many other crises demanded attention. The first involved warships. The second involved whiskey. One involves the most powerful military in the world trading fire with Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, while the president described it on the phone as just a love tap. The other involves the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation distributing custom-engraved bourbon bottles branded with his nickname, Cash, with a $sign, to FBI personnel and civilians, losing one at Quantico and reportedly losing his mind over the missing bottle. Together, these two stories tell you something important about how the second Trump administration conducts the most serious business of American governance, and why the word unprecedented keeps appearing in every serious analysis of what is happening right now. Let's start with the love tap, because Iran firing missiles, drones, and small patrol boats at 3 United States Navy destroyers in the Strait of Hormuz is not normally the kind of event that gets described with the language of gentle affection. On Thursday, May 7th, United States Central Command reported that Iranian forces launched multiple missiles, drones, and small boats as the USS Truxtun, USS Rafael Peralta, and USS Mason were transiting the Strait of Hormuz toward the Gulf of Oman. CENTCOM said no United States assets were struck. American forces intercepted the incoming threats and responded with self-defense strikes, targeting Iranian military facilities, including missile and drone launch sites, command and control locations, and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance nodes at the port of Bandar Abbas, Kesh Island, and the Bandar Kargan naval checkpoint in Manab. In a phone call with ABC News senior political correspondent Rachel Scott, Trump called the retaliatory strikes just a love tap and insisted the ceasefire was still in effect, saying the ceasefire is going, it is in effect. On Truth Social, he claimed the United States completely destroyed the Iranians involved in the exchange and described Iranian missiles and drones that were intercepted as dropping ever so beautifully down to the ocean, very much like a butterfly dropping to its grave. He also warned Iran that the same day it would face far harder and more violent attacks in the future if Iran does not get their deal signed fast, while simultaneously insisting the ceasefire was intact. When asked by reporters what lines Iran would have to cross to be considered ceasefire violations, Trump said only that they know what not to do. When pressed further on whether the ceasefire was over, Trump told reporters, "You won't have to know if there's no ceasefire. You'll just have to look at one big glow coming out of Iran." That is 3 separate and incompatible messages delivered in the same conversation. The ceasefire is in effect, the strikes were just a love tap, and if Iran goes further, there will be a civilizational glow visible from outside the country. None of those 3 statements can simultaneously be true in any coherent strategic framework, and yet all 3 were delivered in the same week by the same president in reference to the same event. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, responded on social media, saying that every time a diplomatic solution is on the table, the United States opts for a reckless military adventure, and asking whether it is a crude pressure tactic or the result of a spoiler once again duping the president into another quagmire. Iran's foreign ministry issued a formal statement calling the United States' actions a clear violation of the April 8th ceasefire and a flagrant breach of the United Nations Charter qualifying as acts of aggression under international law. An advisor to Iran's supreme leader compared Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz to having an atomic bomb and vowed Iran would not relinquish it. Iran's top nuclear negotiator, Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf, had earlier mocked the United States for pausing Project Freedom by posting that Operation Trust Me Bro had failed, a taunt that echoed across international media for days. Experts who spoke to Time magazine said Trump is clearly applying pressure while hoping for a deal, and that it is clear he needs a deal. One analyst said the insistence from Trump and his officials that the ceasefire is intact, despite continued attacks, signals that Washington has not abandoned its belief in a diplomatic off-ramp. Another described Trump's escalatory rhetoric as part of his self-presentation as a strong man meant to serve multiple audiences, from markets to domestic constituencies, as a negotiating instrument. The translation of that expert analysis into plain English is this. The President of the United States is calling military strikes on Iranian ports a love tap because he desperately needs a deal before the November midterms and cannot afford to admit that the ceasefire he declared is not functioning as a ceasefire. Gas prices at $4.56 per gallon. 13 American service members killed in action. 66% of Americans disapproving of his handling of the Iran war. A ceasefire being violated continuously by both sides since the day it was announced. That is the context in which the love tap comment was made. It was not bravado from a position of strength. It was minimization from a position of political desperation. And every serious analyst in Washington understood it as exactly that. Now, let's turn to the bourbon, because the Kash Patel story is remarkable on its own terms and reveals something about the culture of the institution he runs that deserves serious attention beyond the obvious comedic surface. The Atlantic published a report on Wednesday, May 6th, with 8 sources, including current and former FBI and Department of Justice officials, describing how Patel typically travels with a supply of personalized branded bourbon that he uses as an unusual calling card. The bottles are Woodford Reserve, a mid-range Kentucky bourbon, engraved with the words Kash Patel, FBI Director, alongside a rendering of the FBI shield. Around the shield is a band featuring Patel's title and his preferred stylized spelling of his first name, Kash, with a $sign replacing the letter S. Some of the bottles also include his signature and the number 9, a likely reference to his position in the sequence of FBI directors. Patel and his team transported the bourbon aboard Department of Justice aircraft, including during trips connected to the 2026 Winter Olympics. One bottle was allegedly left behind in a locker room. Patel was filmed drinking beer with the United States men's hockey team after its gold medal victory, behavior that officials said reportedly displeased President Trump because of the optics. Federal Register. Patel and his team traveled with at least one case of bourbon to the FBI's training facility at Quantico, Virginia in March for what was described as a training seminar taught by Ultimate Fighting Championship athletes. At least one of the bottles went missing, causing Patel to lose his mind, according to clients of Kurt Suzdak, a retired FBI agent who has assisted bureau agents with legal issues. Patel reportedly began threatening to prosecute and polygraph his staff over the missing bottle. The FBI's response to the Atlantic's reporting was a masterpiece of bureaucratic deflection. Assistant Director of Public Affairs Ben Williamson called the Atlantic's premise false and misleading and stated that the bottles are part of a common practice in the FBI that started well over a decade ago, long before Director Patel arrived, and that senior bureau officials have long exchanged commemorative items in formal gift settings consistent with ethics rules. He added that Director Patel has followed all applicable ethical guidelines and pays for any personal gift himself. However, the FBI declined to clarify which specific ethical rules applied, when the bottles were engraved, or whether any had been reimbursed. When the Atlantic contacted a former senior FBI official to ask whether he had ever seen a director distribute personally branded liquor, the official burst out laughing. Several current and former agents described the bottles as demoralizing, suggesting the director operates under a different standard than rank-and-file employees. That last point is the one that cuts deepest and that the FBI statement cannot explain away. The FBI has traditionally maintained strict standards around alcohol use while on duty and alcohol abuse outside working hours. Critics say the normalization of branded liquor as a directorial calling card cuts against that culture, even where no allegation of misconduct during duty hours has been made. Some employees also said they felt pressured to accept the bottles from their boss because they feared being subjected to a polygraph test if they refused. The director, who has been ordering polygraph tests for dozens of staff members to find out who leaked unflattering stories about him to the press, is apparently the same director whose staff fear that refusing to accept his personalized bourbon bottles might itself trigger a polygraph examination. The institution that built its reputation on rigorous professional standards and zero tolerance for anything that could compromise the integrity of its agents is now the institution whose director travels with a branded whiskey collection and loses his mind when one goes missing at a UFC training seminar. Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee were quick to respond. The mockery was immediate and bipartisan in its sourcing, with Republican former FBI officials joining current and former Democratic critics in expressing bewilderment at the image of the nation's top law enforcement officer distributing Kash-branded bourbon as a calling card. Saturday Night Live, as already noted, incorporated the bourbon bottle as a central prop in the Kavanaugh-Hegsteth-Patel bar cold open that aired 2 days after The Atlantic's report, with Aziz Ansari's Patel holding the bottle to the camera and telling the audience that yes, somehow this is a real thing that I, the FBI director, have made. The audience reaction to that line was one of the loudest of the entire sketch, precisely because the absurdity was pre-certified by documented reality. Taken together, these two stories from the same week reveal something that gets lost when they are reported separately. The love tap comment and the Kash bourbon bottles are both symptoms of the same underlying condition, which is an administration that has concluded that the normal rules of institutional behavior, the norms around how American military force is described, the professional standards expected of the nation's senior law enforcement officer, the careful language that presidents and their cabinet members have historically used when discussing active combat operations, do not apply to them. Calling an Iranian missile attack on Navy destroyers a love tap while maintaining a ceasefire is in effect is the diplomatic equivalent of distributing personalized bourbon bottles from a case brought on a government aircraft to a UFC training seminar. Both are ways of signaling that the person in question operates by different rules than the institution they lead was built to uphold. The American public is paying attention. The polls reflected, the special election results reflected, and the Saturday Night Live cold open that brought Matt Damon back to play Brett Kavanaugh with bourbon bottles and ceasefire jokes as the connective tissue reflected it in the way that only great satire can, by showing the audience what is happening right in front of them and daring them to laugh and worry at the same time.